I know the economy is literal shit right now, but why does everything have to just keep getting so...
This is part of the problem in America today. Every lunch is $15. It just seems as if you went to bed one night and this was $8. You woke up in the morning and it became 14.
The United States used to be considered one of the easiest places in the world to live. You did not have to be rich to live comfortably. A normal paycheck used to be enough to buy groceries, keep a car running, and hope that one day you could own a home. But in 2026, everything has changed. Even things that used to be considered cheap have become expensive. Fast food is being sold at premium prices. A new car is slowly becoming a luxury. And a home has moved completely out of reach for them, and even for their children and grandchildren. What pushed a stable life to the point where you have to think twice before buying a meal? Today I'm going to look with you at 15 things that are becoming so expensive that Americans are cutting back, putting them off, or even giving them up completely. And pay special attention to number 4. This may be one of the biggest shocks, because it used to be a part of American life that thousands of Europeans admire, but now even Americans are struggling to afford it. At the end of the video, we will also talk about how to protect your wallet. This is a video you cannot afford to miss because you are a victim of this price crisis too. Number 1, fast food.
I remember when McDonald's used to be really affordable. I just spent $40 on breakfast sandwiches.
Today's list would be worthless if I did not start with the most shocking thing: fast food. Fast food was always cheap. That is how the chains got America hooked on the drive-thru. You accepted a burger wrapped in paper, got your own drink you ate right in the car, because in return it was fast, convenient, and cheap enough that you barely had to think twice. But that whole not having to think twice part is disappearing. You may not be the only person who still remembers when $5 could buy an entire meal. Now a sandwich at McDonald's can cost nearly $40. That is when the unspoken deal behind fast food starts to break down. It never promised a premium experience. It promised cheap, fast, and easy to get. When the cheap part disappears, people start hunting for deals, skipping the fries, skipping the soda, cooking at home, or simply turning around and leaving. And saying if it is too expensive, just cook at home is too easy. Fast food used to serve the exact people who were short on both money and time, people getting off work, late busy parents, drivers, exhausted workers. Fast food used to be where Americans went when a decent meal cost too much. Now fast food itself is becoming something they have to run away from. And the problem gets even worse when the thing inside that burger beef is becoming harder to afford too. Number 2, beef and red meat.
Yo, I'm back in Walmart now. Look at these prices on beef. Look at this crap, would you? This is what y'all wanted?
There's a very clear sign that your budget is shrinking. You walk up to the meat counter planning to buy a beef, stare at the price for a few seconds, then quietly pick up a package of chicken instead. For Americans, beef was never just expensive steak. It was ground beef for dinner, weekend hamburgers, backyard, grilling, the kind of meals many families grew up eating. But now even the everyday stuff is no longer everyday cheap. A pound of ground beef averages about $7. Can you believe that means the price is more than 80% higher than it was in 2019? Behind that price are drought, higher ranching costs, and a shrinking American cattle herd problems that cannot be fixed in just a few months. And I have had to change my habits too. I remember just a few years ago I was still buying ribeye, tenderloin, or sirloin every month. Now I walk straight past the red meat section and buy chicken. That is exactly what high prices can do to a family, not just make you switch to a cheaper cut of beef, but make you drop the entire category. And at least the meat you buy actually belongs to you. The next expense is much more annoying. You pay month after month, but the moment you stop paying, everything disappears. Number 3, subscriptions and ongoing fees.
Dog, that woman that made that video about it's 2035 and I don't have the money to pay my walking subscription, and that bitch...
At this rate, by the end of 2026, companies may start charging us a subscription fee just to walk. And that sounds like a joke, but look around. Everything is being turned into a monthly payment so fast that it does not sound completely ridiculous anymore. Back then you bought something, paid for it, and that was the end of it. Now, not necessarily.
HP is finally rolling out its printer subscription program, even though it got flamed just weeks ago for even suggesting this. Customers are pretty universal that they don't want it. The program will start at $7 per month and have a dedicated 24/7 support.
Take a printer that costs about $160. You would think once you bring it home it belongs to you, right? Then an $8 monthly plan shows up. Sounds small. Let it run for 2 years and you've already paid more than the original price of the printer. It only took the comments a few seconds to ask the question. Everybody hearing this wants to ask you need a monthly subscription for a printer too. And that is not all. Some people explain that if you use ink cartridges from the subscription program and then cancel the service, those cartridges may stop working even if there is still ink inside. You bought the machine. It sits on your desk, but somewhere a company can still decide whether something inside it is allowed to keep working. Then add Netflix, Spotify software storage apps. $8 here, $12 there, $15 somewhere else. At the end of the month, you look at your account and wonder where all the money went. So a lot of people are doing the simplest thing possible, canceling. Dropping Netflix, dropping Spotify, avoiding subscription software, and keeping old devices longer. At least those expenses can still be cut. The next one is much harder. You can love a team your entire life, then realize you can no longer afford to walk into the stadium and watch them play. Number 4, watching sports in person.
You're being charged 6% extra every time you buy something from inside Highmark Stadium. It's all part of what's being called the Erie County Surcharge. It's money that'll ultimately fund capital improvements inside this new facility. Which, by the way, taxpayers...
America just hosted a World Cup with almost every seat filled. But there is an uncomfortable question: can ordinary people still afford to sit in those seats? The group stage filled about 99.7% of available seats. That makes it sound like ticket prices did not scare anybody away. But a full stadium does not mean everybody can afford a ticket. It only means there are still enough people willing to pay. Greg Connor, the owner of an auto repair shop in Oklahoma, spent $9,600 on forwarded tickets to take his family to watch France play Norway. At first they planned to attend 5 or 6 games. In the end, they went to just 1. He called the price crazy, and the ticket is only the price of getting in. Then there is parking, food, drinks, beer. You take the whole family to 1 game, and a few hours later you may realize you just spent enough money to buy groceries for several days. What makes this even harder to swallow is that Atlanta-approved high prices are not inevitable. During the World Cup, the stadium, there was still selling $2 hot dogs and $2 refillable sodas. Some people will say sports are not a necessity. True. You can absolutely stay home, and that is exactly what hurts. You can love a team your entire life, then reach the point where the only way you can afford to love them is through a screen. But at least you can skip the game. You cannot skip the next thing. You still have to eat every day. Number 5, organic food.
So this is my $924 grocery shop, trying to eat as organic and clean as possible. Also, we'll be starting a Mediterranean diet this week.
There is something worse than not being able to afford steak. You can still afford to eat, but you can no longer afford to choose what you really want for your family's health. Take the exact same grocery cart. Organic lettuce can cost $599 more than twice the regular version. Organic ground beef can cost $14.99 a pound, about 80% more. Organic blueberries can cost $12.99 a container. Switch everything in the cart to organic, and the total bill can jump by as much as 72.4%. And this is the part that hurts the most. You stand in front of the food and stop asking which one is better for my family. You start asking which one can I still afford. That is when prices stop deciding only what you eat tonight. They start deciding how much you are allowed to care about quality. So people buy the better version only for certain foods. Choose what is in season, look for discounts, buy from local farms, and even hunt for food that is close to its date and freeze it at home. You have already made it through the first 5 things that have gotten expensive enough to make Americans furious. And maybe none of this surprised you because you are dealing with the same headaches yourself. But what comes next is even crazier. Are you ready to look directly at what an ordinary life is really losing? Number 6, eating out and takeout.
So I'm out to eat at the Krusty Krab, and I just got my receipt back after I finished my meal. I dined in, but look at this receipt. So I get a Krabby Patty. They charged me $3 just to add pickles to it.
Eating out used to be a way Americans bought back some of their time. You paid so you did not have to grocery shop, cook, or wash dishes, and you got an evening back for work, your kids, or simply yourself. But now, even one night away from the kitchen is slowly becoming a luxury. For a lot of families, ordering pizza on Friday night or picking up takeout is not living large. After a day of working, picking up the kids, dealing with things around the house, and getting ready for the next morning, it is simply a way of saying, tonight, we do not have to work another shift. The problem starts when you look at the final bill. The food itself may still look reasonably priced, but then you add tax, tip, delivery fees, service fees, and sometimes other charges too. A simple question like, want to order food tonight, suddenly turns into, is it really worth paying this much just so we do not have to cook? There was a time when working hard meant you could occasionally spend money to make life a little easier. Now, a lot of people are using their own free time to make up for what their wallets can no longer handle. And next, this gets even more personal. It starts affecting the way you present yourself to the world every day. Number 7, haircut salons and personal care. Sometimes you know it is time for a haircut, but then you look at the price and tell yourself, forget it, I can wait another 2 weeks. Getting a haircut covering gray hair, getting your nails done, or taking care of yourself is not always just about looking good for fun. For many people, it is about going to work, meeting clients, going to interviews, and stepping outside still feeling neat and confident. But when service prices go up, people start stretching everything out. A haircut every 4 weeks becomes every 6 weeks. 6 weeks becomes 8 weeks. Getting your hair colored at a salon becomes buying dye and doing it yourself. Regular manicures become something you only do before an important event. These are also the same reactions being reported by people who are using services less often or are switching to doing them at home. You still go to work, still pay the bills, still try as hard as you always did, but now even looking put together is something you have to think twice about. High prices have become really frustrating when they do not just make you buy less, but make you cut back on the things that help you feel confident and feel like you are taking care of yourself. A haircut can wait, but if your dog suddenly stops eating, you cannot tell it. Wait until next month. Number 8, having pets and paying for veterinary care.
Americans are getting priced out of owning a pet. And the reason this is because costs have just gone up and up and up. Not just for vet bills, but for everything else.
How much money is your dog worth? That sounds so cold it is uncomfortable. But a vet bill of a few hundred or even a few $1,000s can force a family to answer exactly that question. You do not adopt a dog thinking that 10 years later you will be sitting in front of a veterinarian trying to figure out whether you can afford to treat it. It sleeps next to you, waits for you to come home, grows up with your children, and stays with your family through some of your worst years. So when veterinary costs rise, this no longer feels like cutting an expense. Food, flea, and tick medicine tests, dental care, regular checkups are already expensive enough. And that is before something unexpected happens. When money gets tight, people start delaying appointments, asking which tests are really necessary, looking for cheaper medicine, and putting off care that is not urgent. Even more painful, some decide that after the pet they have now, they will not get another one. And if taking care of a dog or cat already makes you think this way, think about the people asking themselves whether they can afford to have children. Those are two completely different things, but the fears are very similar. Can I afford to care for a living being? That depends completely on me. Number 9, movie theaters. Some money does not buy you a thing. It buys you a few hours to forget that rent, groceries, and a pile of bills are still waiting outside. Movie theaters used to be one of the most affordable pleasures like that. A movie, a tub of popcorn, a few hours sitting next to someone you care about. No vacation needed, no fancy restaurant. Just walk into a dark room and let your mind rest for a while. But now, even those 2 hours of escaping reality are starting to require some math. No wonder people bring snacks from home, skip the popcorn, and wait for the movie to come online or simply stop going. In the comments under the news reported, many people even said directly that if theaters keep relying on overpriced food to survive, working class people will be the first ones to leave. And some experiences are even harder to replace than a movie because they only happen on one particular night. Number 10, concerts and live performances. Concerts have a strange problem now. The more expensive the tickets get, the more people split into two groups. One group looks at the price and immediately closes the ticket page. The other looks at the price, curses a little, and buys it anyway. Sounds irrational, right? But when you really think about it, it is more sad than funny. A ticket can cost more than $100. Then add fees, parking, gas, food. If you have to travel, there is a hotel too. In the end, a few hours listening to an artist you love can turn into a bill of several $100s. So a lot of people just stop going. Maybe they attend one show a year, choose seats far away, or stay home and watch videos. But there is also a group doing the opposite. They look at a house getting farther and farther out of reach. They look at a new car becoming years of debt, and then they tell themselves, forget it. At least I can still afford this. $300 for a second fun night sounds ridiculous, but for someone who has struggled all year, a few hours to sing, scream, forget work, and forget the bills may be the thing they hold on to just to keep going. Number 11, family vacations and Disney.
Disney prices are completely out of control. I live a mile and a half from Disneyland in Anaheim, California, and I've lived in this place for about the last 3 years. And so I saw an ad the other day that said ticket price reduced to $150 per person, and I was like,
maybe the most painful question a mother or father can ask is not, can I afford Disney? It is, does my child not deserve a childhood with trips like this? And that is why family vacations can so easily become an emotional trap. You do not feel like you are buying tickets. You feel like you are buying memories for your kids. The trip sounds simple enough, but then you add tickets, hotel gas, or airfare, food, parking things that help you avoid waiting in line, and then a few souvenirs, because you do not want the entire trip to be nothing but saying, "No, honey, we cannot get that." Planning Disney has become complicated enough that many families have to calculate every package, every option, and every way to save time. And before you even get very far, another bill is already waiting for you at the airport. Number 12, flying in America. In America, your family may live only a few states away, but driving there can take almost an entire day. If you want to go home for Thanksgiving, take your kids to Disney, or make it to a wedding, flying is not always some luxury choice. Sometimes it is simply the most practical way to get there. The problem is the more you fly, the more you start wondering where exactly the convenience is and what you are paying for. You think buying the ticket is the end of it, but then you choose a seat, check a bag, and find something to eat at the airport. And suddenly the real cost looks very different from the original number. Things that seem completely ordinary outside the airport can become noticeably more expensive inside, because travelers barely have any other choices. Then you arrive 2 hours early, go through security, and sit at the gate. Just when you think you are about to board, the flight gets delayed. You wait some more. Then it gets delayed again. What frustrates people is that this price is supposed to buy convenience. But sometimes you spend hundreds of dollars, sit in a cramped seat, wait for hours, and by nighttime you still do not know when you're actually going to get there. Number 13, health insurance and health care.
My husband and I received a medical bill in the mail yesterday, which happens a lot because we have horrible insurance. Hey, Cigna, take that.
Person in pain should not have to sit there doing math, but it still happens. Your chest feels wrong, your tooth is hurt for days, or your doctor says you should get more tests. Instead of only thinking, what is wrong with me, another question pushes into your head. How much is this going to cost? I understand skipping a concert because the ticket is too expensive. I understand postponing a vacation because money is tight this year. But telling someone who is in pain to just deal with it for a few more weeks because they cannot afford to see a doctor yet, to me that is not saving money anymore. What makes it even harder to understand is that a lot of people have already been paying for insurance regularly. You pay to be protected when something goes wrong. But when the day finally comes that you actually needed it, you still have to think about the deductible medicine, what you have to pay yourself, then open your bank account and see whether this month can handle it. And just like that, healthcare turns into a gamble with your own body. I know many European countries have problems too. Taxes are high, waiting times can be long in some places, and hospitals are not always perfect. But I still find it very hard to explain how a wealthy country like America can have people who work, have insurance, and are still afraid to see a doctor because they are afraid of the bill. And the next thing, it's almost impossible to live without if you want to be independent, and in most of America, a car. Number 14, new cars.
Hey, let me ask you guys this. Who the hell can afford a new car these days? I mean, I drive by these lots all day, every day, and there's never anybody there, and they're always loaded with cars. I went in one day, I looked at a couple of trucks, and I'm talking like 100,000.
For many Americans, your first car used to be a very clear sign that you were growing up and starting to take care of your own life. A new car used to be a very normal goal for a working family. Now it is starting to look more like a luxury item than transportation. And most people looking for another car are not doing it because they are tired of the one they have. Some are just trying to keep a 12 or 15-year-old car running a little longer. But then they look at new cars, and the monthly payment is enough to send them right back to the old one for a few more years. A lot of people do not even ask anymore, how much does this car cost? They ask, how much do I have to pay every month? Then they try to squeeze that number in beside rent, groceries, insurance, and all the other bills. And in many parts of America, living without a car is almost impossible. Work is far away. Your child's school is in another direction. The grocery store, the hospital, almost everything requires driving. What worries me more is that this does not stop with us. If someone working full-time today already feels like a new car is too far out of reach, then how are our children and grandchildren supposed to buy one in 10 or 20 years from now? Maybe there will come a point when a new car is no longer a normal milestone of adulthood. It becomes something only families with very strong finances even dare to think about. And if even a car is slowly turning into a luxury, then the other key to the American dream is even farther away. Number 15, housing.
The cost of living is fucked. At the moment, I pay close to $600 for a one-bedroom apartment. My lease is up in a few months, and I just know those assholes are going to put up the rent. If they put it up again, I'm gonna have to live. street.
Housing is the one thing on this list where you cannot just say, too expensive, forget it. If you cannot afford to buy, you have to rent. But rent keeps getting heavier too, and that leaves you stuck in the middle. Renting used to be seen as a temporary stage. Work for a few years, save for a down payment, then try to buy a place of your own. Now, a lot of people rent while waiting for the day they can afford to buy, but the rent itself eats up the money they were trying to save. Then the question, when will I buy a house, slowly turns into, will I ever be able to afford one in my lifetime? You do not need a mansion. You just want a place big enough to live in. But then there is the down payment, monthly mortgage, insurance, taxes, repairs. Eventually you stop looking for the house you like. You're just trying to find anything you can still afford. You've already cut almost everything that makes life more enjoyable, and the house is still too far away. At that point, it is very hard to keep telling people they just need to save more. And if you rent forever, you may pay for the same roof over your head for 10 or 20 years, but in the end, it still belongs to someone else. When you look back at this whole list, something even scarier starts to stand out. Software comes with subscriptions, cars come with monthly payments, houses get rented because people cannot afford to buy them. We are paying for more and more things, but owning fewer and fewer of them. We started with a burger that costs too much, and we ended with a house that is too far out of reach. A survival strategy. When everything costs too much. If I stopped here, this video would be pretty depressing. Burgers are expensive, cars are expensive, houses keep getting harder to buy, and all we can do is sit there watching prices go up. I do not want to end it that way. I am also not the kind of person wearing a Rolex and telling you that your problem is a $5 coffee. If housing, groceries, insurance, and healthcare are all getting more expensive, giving up a few cups of coffee is not going to solve much. But we can still protect ourselves a little. The first thing I would do is open my bank statement and look for those $8, $12, $15 charges that keep going through automatically every month. Streaming services, apps, storage, software, memberships. If that service disappeared today and I would not even feel the need to buy it again, then I am done with it. I also try to avoid situations where I have to pay more just because I'm hungry in a hurry or have no other choice. Airports are an obvious example. Pack food ahead of time, bring an empty water bottle plan a little. Not because a few dollars will save your whole budget, but because I do not like being forced to pay more just because I am stuck somewhere. There is something I do not like having to say, but sometimes finding a cheaper version is not enough. If beef is too expensive, maybe we have to eat less beef. If eating out has turned into a major bill, maybe we have to do it less often. If concerts are too expensive, choose the one night that is really worth going to. None of that is fun, but at least we make the change ourselves before the credit card forces us to. I would also keep the things I already own longer. If the car is still safe, keep repairing it. If there are small things I can learn to fix myself, I will learn. I have no interest in turning Saturday night into a lesson on fixing a faucet. But if it means I do not have to call someone next time and pay hundreds of dollars, I will try. And if money starts getting tight, I will protect the things that make life fall apart immediately. If I lose them, housing, food, medicine, necessary insurance, and transportation to work. The fun stuff has to come later, even though I do not like that. And I would be very careful with debt. Credit cards are very good at making this month feel manageable. The problem is that next month you still have rent, groceries, plus what you spent last month, and the interest on top of it. I would rather skip one night of fun today than turn it into a bill that follows me for 6 months. I do not save money so I can brag about my bank account. I save because I do not want to take another step backward every month. Right now, to me, that is survival. I never thought living a normal life, even a pretty basic and boring one, would become this difficult. How did it get this way? Have you ever really sat down and thought about what is causing it? Talk about it in the comments. I want to hear your point of view, even if it is completely different from mine. Every opinion deserves respect here, because understanding the cause is also the first step toward knowing how we should respond, what we should change, and how we can protect ourselves. I still hope that after this video goes up, things will gradually start moving in a better direction, even though I know that will not be easy. Have a great day, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel.